Alan, can you hear us this morning?
I can hear you fine.
Perfect.
It's 7:30 a.m. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first Administration Committee meeting for the new council in 2024. Do we need to do by introduce the members?
Ward 5. Harris Spicer, Ward 4.
Mike Lester, Ward 2.
Teresa Young, Ward 3.
Mr. Crane? Ron Grant, City Administrator.
Sheila Perry, Director of Finance, IT, and Interim Director of HR.
Ryan Molman, City Attorney.
And we have guests back.
Derek Thomas, guest from Ward 3.
Mary Shant, Ward 2.
Sarah Triller, HR.
Scott Spencer, Ward 3 Councilman. Ron Fitzwater, Mayor.
Aaron Griffrath, J.C. Parks.
Jan Shoemaker, Ward 4.
Thank you all for coming. The first item, the approval of minutes for the March 6th and April 15th meetings. Has everyone had a chance to look through them? Is there a motion to approve? Second. Motion and a second to approve. Any discussion on the motions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Moving along. Appointments. I'm sorry. Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the appointments to the boards and commissions that has been presented before us? Is there any discussion on the appointments?
I'd
Go
like
ahead,
to,
Mike.
I'd like to move that we approve the appointments, with the exception of the ones for Mary Chance and Sarah Michael.
Mary Sheets.
Okay, those are not appointments. Those are the current members, I believe.
Yeah, the appointments.
To replace those? Okay.
For Amy Briggs and Tim Dimler.
Who's the second one? Said I can't hear you.
Tim Dimler.
Oh, Tim Daimler. Oh, yeah.
Basically, with those exceptions, we discuss those exceptions.
There's a motion. Is there any second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. And discussion. Mike, go ahead.
So, yeah, the other appointments here, except for those two, I think are to fill vacancies or the new appointments. These two are replacement appointments. And I want to talk about them separately. They are replacements, and these are replacements for people that have served only one period on these commissions. They serve as distinction, in all the meetings, active deliberations, attendance of those commissions. And just want to point out that this action is apart from past practice. And it also seems to indicate a trend, which I don't think is necessarily a good trend. I don't remember prior to the current that replacements sort of after the first time has been done. Automatic. What automatic. I just think something that really is not very constrained. People volunteers and serve on these commissions, attend all the meetings and are active. But disrespect. Those the mayor's prerogative, I just question it. I also have shared with committee members, resolution, which, also enters into this as well. Because on one of the appointments, if it's approved, the parks appointment, you'll end up having 4 persons from one ward. Parks. You will have just one person who lives in one, 2, 4. for parks. Anyway, we can talk about the resolution later on, but part of the resolution is that it passes with certain things on like parity across the awards. Parks Commission, it's a good idea to have, try to have parity. Representation where we can get it. And it's very important. Anyway, those are the reasons that I think those 2 particular ones should be discussed.
Tim Daimler is going to be filling in as an alternate to that. Am I reading that right? Sarah Michael was the alternate.
Yes, and I might also point out that when Sarah Michael appointed, or Diamond, put the name without replacing it, so there's other vacancies, so appointing some. What is it? Randy, possibly. And I'm necessarily. You have the equipment without. Stating. Depending on. Active.
Anyone else have anything to speak on the motion? Oh, go ahead, Tricia.
That I served on the planning and zoning commission with Sarah Michael. And as of the last meeting, I knew she was looking. So actually been to receive her term. Serve. She was looking forward to, she enjoyed it, she felt like she was a diamond member. And so when you have people like that, who serve, that's in the discussion.
Thank you.
So I guess my first question is why now? Why not? Well, first, is it because you want parity between the wards? Is it because you don't think the mayor has the right to do this? Is it because the current folks serving are friends of yours? I don't understand what exactly the issue is. Because I think it very clearly lays out in our charter that this is the mayor's prerogative.
I would. Slightly scared. Actually, it is the mayor's prerogative. And also, her responsibility. Now, I'll just say, procedurally, there's some other aspects to this too. I was curious about what Sir Michael, she asked me. But contact her, she was surprised that this was. And then, in resolution, I recommend it also be more procedure that we know. answer your question. Yeah, we would think about it. Several months ago. Part of it, right, came to my attention that Ward Two has a head representation of planning. They have no representation. In the past, when I was on it, I was kind of repeating. That was an important thing, and I think it's. That's. Certainly, these two positions. The other thing is,
Oh, finish your stuff.
the other thing, I just did work to be recognized. Is the part of past practice. That people serve on the commission, serve well. Good recognition for the volunteer service. This apparently is changing because this will be these two that will be ones. I just.
I'm glad you brought that up. The departure from past practice, because I think this is a significant departure from past practice. I spoke to the former chair of this committee who said that the scrutiny of and the attention focused on, especially the last three women appointed to the Parks Commission, is unprecedented in her tenure. Unprecedented in the tenure of the former mayor. It's the third woman in a row being recommended for the Parks Commission that has faced the motion to disconnect them from every other name on the list. And it's concerning to me. I think we have a very clear statement in our charter, which is just one line that allows the mayor to do this. Now, it might upset some people. But when you have a change in administrations, you have a change in focus, you have a change in priority. I think we've seen a significant shift in the two administrations when it comes to how this city's being governed. I think we see major focus on progress. I think that's being accomplished at a record pace. But all that notwithstanding, it's the mayor's prerogative to do this. And while these folks might have served brilliantly in their time, it doesn't give us the right to go in and just because maybe we don't like it, usurp it. And no more than maybe you don't like Donald Trump's appointments to the Supreme Court. I don't like Barack Obama's appointments to the Supreme Court. That's their prerogative. It's just how it is. It's to the victor goes the spoils. And so I don't want to go down into a huge rabbit hole and accuse my friend of picking favorites, but I mean, you would think after Pat Thomas's name was thoroughly trashed in this community, and then Eric Schwenka's name kind of run through the mud and council. And now for the third time, we have an appointment to the Parks Commission that we're wanting to set to the side. I think enough's enough, and I think it's time that respect the mayor's position to vote on this full slate. I'll be in my position to.
You have anything to add? And if I can say a few things, after I got back last night, Councilman Lester from Mom's house. It's just a story. I wrote down some notes from when we first started getting the appointments and looking over, and then reminded about this when I was on the radio with Carol McDowell, I got the charter out again, and I read that. And the charter specifically, about the only thing the mayor gets to do is to appoint and make recommendations of his liking to commissions and committees. And I think if we said anything else, I think we'd have to maybe, before the city council as a whole, when we all meet, look at maybe doing, if we want to do that under new business or something, if that's the way we want to change the charter and add wording into that, but, a couple of the items I'd written down as notes that I just want to bring out. Have we ever looked at previous mayor's appointments in the same way we're doing these and scrutinized them? Did we interview anyone for those appointments, before this committee again? Did we just vote and move them on to the city council where our role as advisor consent was, as a charter, just as we're allowed to do, and, bring questions up before that to the mayor? For me, it takes away the mayor's privilege of making appointments if we say they automatically get to serve 2 terms. I don't think anyone is, guaranteed the full thing of their terms. I could say with honesty that, I moved along after, a committee, fine and dandy. I love serving on it, but, understand it is the mayor's, prerogative when they, when they're elected and get appointed. Another thing I have, with all this, it seems like we're starting to question people's character and abilities here in Jefferson City. And I think the people who take a vow interest in this city do so are not people that we can say are questionable of character or anything like that. I think generally the people who care and write down and want to serve are people who do have the best interest in Jeff City. So I think the mayor, from the list he receives, gets a good list of people. I just, if we go through ward parity, what if there's people in wards that don't apply, they don't care? We may get that from other, there may be more in one ward that really love the parks or really like planning and zoning. I just don't see how we achieve parity. I was never in for parity. I think that's what's wrong with the NFL and a bunch of other stuff as they strive for equalization. I think the best of the best come to the top. So those are questions I have. I already mentioned that I believe if we want to change the charter, we need to bring it before our whole council. Let us have a good, honest debate, open back and forth on reasons pro and against it. If we do something like this for, let's say Mr. Fitzwater, our mayor, something happens before the end of his term and he can't serve again, that may hamper the new mayors coming in to say, hey, I have some people that applied. I look over there, I want to apply or appoint them to these committees. That ties their hands, and I really just don't like to see that. I think each new administration coming in with the mayor, because that's some of the least abilities they have, really about the only ones is to appoint, do the advisory consent thing. If these are all good qualified people, pass them along. We do our advisory consent to the city as a whole in our council chambers, as we're prerogative to do. And I just don't like the idea of us maybe hampering future mayors and their appointments. Those are some of the notes I sat up and thought about and reread that. I look for your opinion.
Oh, take it, mine. I am not, I recognize the process. I suggest the charter be changed. Question. Somerset's oversight of any appointments. I think there's merit to having parity of persons, residents on these commissions, certainly. Their importance in the nature of what they do. Parks and Recs have Part of the budget. And follow that. Appointments. And, I don't, people that have been appointed and are being appointed, I don't have any questions about what the intentions. Our. No, the principles, except by the. Then form, then all. I do note that her application is, whether not had many pages of resume, that's something that can probably a good idea. Have an opportunity. Else than be working with whoever.
I appreciate your thoughts, but I'm of the opinion that, Mike, I generally have a good feeling about everybody in this community. I don't, I just don't think we have people of questionable character or anything. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking everybody that applies is good. So I think with the mayor appointing these people, I think we won't have a problem. These are the thoughts and all that I've had. Is there any other?
Oh,
Go ahead, please.
There was two questions on the floor that I would like to address. It asked about friendship and the respect for the mayor. I want for the record to know that I respect the mayor's opinion and his ability to do this. So that's not a question. And for these people, Sarah, I served with her, but I don't know her personally. So for the records, these are not my friends. However, this is my first meeting, and I saw a shift in the way appointments were being made, and I thought this was the best time to question. That's my opinion, my prerogative to question for clarification. And so that's what I'm doing today, clarify how rules are made. I understand the charter, but I saw that these people were being removed before their terms were actually up. And I knew that Sarah had mentioned that she would like to serve. So that's what I'm doing here today, questioning why the shift if these people are still willing to serve.
I just have to leave it back to it's with the mayor knows people and wants to make a change. That's kind of his prerogative, and we do advise and consent in our role, and just let that our deliberations show what hopefully the votes come out, or whatever which way that they need to come out. But is there any other comments, Councilman Schwartz?
Yeah, I don't, especially in the situation of parks, the term is. So nobody's being taken off out of those. But I'd like to inquire, you served on planning and zoning, and so you have a unique, you both have a unique perspective, I guess, that I don't have. How much ward infighting did you see?
Well, my understanding was the parity was very important, if that's what you're referring to, representation. And as Mike, Councilman Mike mentioned, that will kind of change that a little bit.
But I mean, was there a significant amount of fighting or people, was it a turf war? Were people trying to move things from ward to ward? I mean, was it really a ward specific discussion? Or was it more citywide?
It was mostly wide, and there was no, we should say, fighting or debating on decisions. It was well rounded.
Because you see, in the state, we do this. I know the Conservation Commission is one of them. Where we have. You're only, several sections of the state are required to have individuals. And I think that makes sense because of the size and scope of what they're doing, but in a town this size, I don't think anybody goes be on the park board or planning and zoning to say, I'm here to specifically advocate for my ward. Citywide appointment. And where you live is notwithstanding. It's not based on your ward, it's not based on where you live, it's based on your appointment to the city mission. And so I wholeheartedly don't agree with parity. I think it's something that we want to interject into the process because we haven't done that, quite frankly. I mean, Councilman Lester's been on the council for 6 years and this has never come up before, so that's somewhat concerning. I just think that, you know, sometimes you may not like how the game's going, may not like the new rules, but I mean, this whole change the rules in the middle of the game, it's not a fan of. So again, I'm in strict opposition to this.
And that's fine, and I understand that about the rules being changed. Again, I'm here for clarification on why changes are being made, and I'm looking at the appointments right now, and it looks like Mary Chan's term was to end in May of 2027. So yes, her term was still existing.
I mean, the term's up in May of 20.
The new term for somebody else looks like May of 27, if they fill. Is there any other comments? Vote later.
Like to presence of representation. I think those are citywide, but I think it's important now. Was it resolution proposal is not for the strict. It's a should be representation for the people are moving. So there, it's important. Me, actions, parts of recreation and planning zone. Challenge from people living in different areas of the cities under play. That's important. It's concerning that there's no representation from Ward 2 on planning and zoning. Always has been. But concerning it's going forward, the important for guiding and one for they're on parking lots and areas of the city. It's take that type of unequal distribution of people living in sports homes is a
Thanks for your comments. We have a motion on the floor and it's been seconded to pass the slate minus the appointments of Mary Shantz and Tim Dangler. We'll call the vote.
Allers,
No.
Spicer,
No.
Lester,
motion.
And we're voting on your motion to remove the two in that.
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Schwartz,
No.
motion fails.
Okay, so back to the, so We will entertain a motion to move all the appointments as this slate as presented before us to the city council. So, sorry. Motion a second. Any discussion on the motion to move the slate as filled out before us? I don't know what the correct terminology is, to the full city council. All right, we'll take a roll call vote.
Allers,
Aye.
Spicer. Schwartz. Lester.
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you all very much, and thank you for the discussion and everyone's thoughts and opinions on that. The next item, the matrix update, Mr. Alan Pennington, I believe, is with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you all? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I appreciate the opportunity to give you a quick update here on where we're at on this study and what to expect as we bring it to conclusion. So we have continued with our project team members collecting and analyzing data for each of your departments and talking with staff. We have reviewed an employee survey with city administration, and that will be going live by the end of the week. So all employees in the organization will have an opportunity to provide input to us into ways they think the operations could be improved, streamlined, to identify staffing issues that they may feel need to be addressed, as well as items such as, service levels that are not appropriate, either too high or too low. This is usually a really valuable component of this study because we get a different perspective from that group, and we're really looking forward to seeing that. So that survey will be active for about 2.5 weeks. We will have it available online for all employees that have email addresses, but we've also worked with city administration to provide paper copies to those who don't typically utilize email. What we want to make sure is nobody's left out of that survey. We are continuing to do the analysis on service levels and staffing and comparative organizational structures. That comparative is looking at typical organizational structures for other organizations of your size and complexity and similar services, so that we can give you some insights or benchmarking in terms of how you are currently structured compared to those sort of best practices. We have also reached out to each of the council members to offer an individual discussion with one of our team. Most of those I'm handling individually. I've conducted one. I have another one scheduled for Friday, and I have one person who said, I don't have anything I need to share. So if any of you have not yet responded to the email and would like to schedule that, please let me know. We'll try to remember to send out a reminder today, just in case it fell to the bottom of the pile for some of you. I know it's been a busy time, and with transition, that may not have been the highest priority, but we do want to make sure if you have particular issues you'd like us to be aware of or look at, that we're aware of those so that we can do that. Yesterday, oh yes, go ahead.
Did the email to city council go out to new city council members as well as those
Yes.
that departed?
So we had to do two. So we used the official city email addresses, so it went to all of the current council members. I got personal contact information for the two that had departed to ensure that we didn't lose them in the transition.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yesterday we had a brief discussion with the Citizens Committee just to get some input from them in terms of what their thoughts were as they were bringing this issue forward last year. And I guess it's been going a little slower than we hoped, but we're really ramping up, and May is really our heavy analytical month, and we will be ready at the beginning of June if this committee would like it. I'm scheduled to join you at your next meeting. But if you have time to provide us about half an hour, would love to take the opportunity to give you an update on the preliminary survey findings, our preliminary best practices assessment, and the comparative. What that would essentially do is give you not the actual recommendations, but the key findings that we've identified, and it sort of gives hints to where we're going on those recommendations. But that, I wanted to talk with you about that. It's entirely your call if you want that or not, but I think that would be probably the most meaningful use of a project update in June, is to share those preliminary findings with you, because that may be the most useful for any of you if there are things then that it prompts discussion or thoughts for you. We still have time to address that before we conclude the project later in June with a draft report to you. Because I'd hate for you to get the draft and then have those questions. It would be much easier if we could sort of feed you the preliminary findings, get your thoughts and inputs, or even inquiries to say, I'm intrigued by this. Can you explore that a little bit more? Or can you do a deeper dive in this area? We would still have the time and capacity to do that before finalizing a draft report. But I know your time's limited, so I wanted to ask if that might be acceptable at that June meeting. I could probably keep it to 15 minutes, but I'm typically, having done a lot of these, about a half hour would usually be more appropriate.
We could probably do that at the June admin committee. I just make sure that we invite all council members to be present or join us virtually for that. Since this is typically only half of our council, we
Right.
would want to make sure that they were completely aware of what the topic of discussion was intended to be.
Yeah, and if you don't want that, that's again your call, but I'm just offering that as, I think that would probably be the most meaningful way to make sure you are kept apprised of sort of those key findings before we get to that draft report. So,
Mr. Pennington, after having that discussion with as many of the city council that could show up, you're looking to wrap it up by the end of July? And then in July administration, could we get like final results, and then you'll prepare the report in a July city council as a whole meeting?
yeah, so our goal is to get you the draft report by the end of June. And usually we get feedback from staff.
Yep.
We can get feedback from the council, and then make any quick edits as needed and present at whatever meeting you would like. I don't have your schedule in front of me for July, so I don't know when your meetings are, but if we can turn around that review of the draft quickly with you, then yes, we can present it at whatever scheduled council meeting you would like.
How about I get him a copy of the council schedule as well as this administrative schedule? And maybe he can offer up advice on what a typical timeframe would be
Yes,
to figure out this schedule.
That's kind of what I was trying to ask about, so.
Yeah. And I think
Perfect.
having that schedule out there also will give everyone, we can manage the expectations. All right, if the draft is coming on this date, here's the time period in which we need to review it to stay on that schedule. And we will also, after doing that preliminary review findings with you, we'll also schedule one with the city administration, because we need to give them an update, and the department heads that same opportunity. So we'll be preparing one that we can use both to update you and update them. And that allows us really to get, everyone sort of gets a heads up. Here's what those key findings are, where we're in alignment, where we're not, maybe where we're overstaffed or understaffed, or where we differ in structure or services than others, so that we have those discussions early. What we don't want is anyone to be blindsided. There shouldn't be anything in the final report that we haven't talked with staff and you about. So that this would be a really good way to make sure that that happens, and then we can focus on finalizing that analysis, polishing up the recommendations, and pulling it together.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so if you send me that schedule, what I can do is I'll communicate with Brian and say, all right, based upon this schedule, here's the one maybe we should target, here's the date for the draft, and here's the date for feedback, and see how that works.
I will do that today.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Spicer, Councilman Young, Councilwoman Young, Councilman Lester, do you have any questions for Mr. Pennington? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Alan.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.
All righty. Item number 6, amending the city code to create the city's bicentennial ad hoc committee. Yeah, Crane and Mr. Moore.
I'll start and then Brian can add to. We have a 200th anniversary of the city coming up next year, starting next year, late next year, actually. So we will start doing some planning and work on the budget and try to present to the council this budget season. So, mayor, small work group, come up with some ideas, and I think it's probably a good idea to get that formalized and through to start working some of those ideas, opportunities we're trying to capitalize on to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the city. A little bit of the ideas that we're thinking about is trying to elevate some of the existing special events that we have around our community and try to expand them and try to bring a little bit of awareness to history. And we're also looking at some signature welcome to community signs, highways. And then we're also looking at some challenge points. And we're also going to try to do this as almost like a year-long celebration. A few things throughout the year, special events, hopefully kicking off with the July 4th of 25 kickoff event. So this group's going to work on a lot of that activity, the planning, the coordination. So we thought it was important to formalize that.
Can I ask a question? Are there any members of the bicentennial committee from way back when we first brought in Jeff City still around, besides Carol McDowell? I just know she talks about it a lot. I'm not sure who's on it.
that the Susquehanna? 150? Oh, this 1976?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few. Mark Schreiber is gonna be hopefully helping a lot with this, and I know he's talked to me about some of those activities. So yeah, there's still some.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I didn't know who you were reaching out to, or is this gonna be advertised to the city and say this, we're going to have a, nice news article about it? And
Yeah, Molly's work to get public information out. Really, the goal is to kind of create the committee, work on a budget, present that budget to the council and say this is what's needed to put on some of these events or elevate some of these events, do some of these signature projects. And then really that's going to lead into the 250th anniversary for our nation.
and we'll have numbers written up before the budget season starts.
Yeah, so that's why we want to try to get this going now, so we can develop that budget and present it to the council. See if we can get funding, how much funding we can get to do the projects. We have some activities that.
So our goal is to pass this along to the full city council, being brought up at a meeting where we say this is what we're going to do.
So from a procedural aspect, I propose doing this similar, in a way similar than other kind of short-term ad hoc committees. Our charter review committee several years ago and our MSP community partner several years ago, they're created by resolution, and in the terms of the resolution, they had a very distinct kind of end date. So kind of when all activities are done and wrapped up, then that committee would dissolve. So this says, change the city code. I don't think that's necessary because this is kind of a very distinct time frame that they're going to be looking at.
So
So
my next question is going to be in the
yeah, and doing them by resolution is how we kind of address these types of bodies in the past. So that's how we work procedurally.
Any questions from anyone? Chief?
Motion.
Justin? There's a motion, a second, any discussion on the motion or clarification on the motion? Roll call vote.
Allers,
Aye.
Spicer, Schwartz, Lester,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you all. Item 7, new business. Is there any new business to be brought up before the administration committee? Any old business? Public comments? Anyone? Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
Derek Thomas, Ward 3. A couple of comments. One, I may be wrong, but I think it was this committee that recommended to the city council that public comments happen earlier in the process. At this point, you all have made some decisions, but the public, citizens haven't had a chance to talk about that. So I would like to suggest to the committee that they move public comments to the beginning of the meeting rather than at the tail end. Specifically, what I wanted to talk about were the appointments for the committees. The sheet that I got off the city website says considerations for appointment to a board or commission, and it says mayor's recommendations. It doesn't say the mayor's, this is who it's gonna be. And so my question, I guess, is what exactly does advice and consent even mean? Because, you know, you all say that these people are good and qualified, but as a citizen, how do I know that? Who's interviewed them? Who's vetted them, et cetera? And there's no other position, I could be wrong, in the city that someone gets hired for something or, you know, God bless them volunteering. But there's no other position where someone is just, oh, the mayor says you're the chief of police. The mayor says you're the custodian of the building. So anyway, I would just love to see this committee take up consideration of the process for how committee members are chosen and see a little bit of vetting. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I wasn't sure if you could see.
Introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Jan Shoemaker, Ward 4, and I wanted to, I was going to address the issue of the public comments and suggest moving it earlier in the meeting as well. And the other thing I wanted to suggest, to my knowledge, there isn't one, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. It would be good to have city council policy manual or handbook or something that some of these things could be addressed procedurally. That doesn't have to be necessarily in the charter. And so is there such a document, Ryan?
We have a draft that I've provided, and I don't know if it's finalized or not. I'll have to check. See. But yeah,
Okay.
it's something that I brought.
Okay, yeah, because when I served as a county commissioner in central Illinois, we had that. It was very helpful. And I think that reviewing that kind of document, which I assume would come here before going into the whole council for approval, gives you the opportunity to discuss things like mayoral appointments separate from an actual appointment. So you could talk about it in a general context and what you want to do, and then it's spelled out. I think it also helps the process of appointments. So how does a person apply? How does a person apply for reappointment? And Derek had referenced vetting. So it allows you to spell out all those kinds of things and have that discussion and then everything in writing. Now, it doesn't have the weight of the charter, of course, but at least it spells out how things are supposed to operate. So I would recommend that this committee take that on. And then I just wanted to make one brief comment about the appointment process with the mayor. Of course, he's left, but y'all tell him what I said. So I think that the one thing that wasn't addressed in the process, absolutely, the mayor has the prerogative. It's in the charter. We all know that. And it was written to have consent and approval from this committee and the council for a reason. And I think it's certainly the mayor's prerogative. But one of the things that the consent allows is if there were someone that was unqualified or would be unwise to appoint, that could be addressed. Secondly, it's philosophy. So, there's been talk among council members about, changing the charter to put parks back under city council, control. And so there can be concern about who's appointed to Parks and Rec, because is the mayoral appointment trying to accomplish that by who he or she appoints to the, Parks and Rec? And so I think for, council members to, not approve certain appointees based on philosophy, not that they're a horrible person or anything like that, but based on philosophy is their prerogative as well. So I just wanted to mention that aspect.
Thank you. And I took your comments down. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Ms. Schumacher,
Oh, I'm sorry.
give me an example of someone who wouldn't qualify for parks.
I don't know any individuals that wouldn't, but,
Not individually, but
I mean, what, are you saying like what criteria would they not? Okay, yeah. Well, I think one example might be someone that's lived here less than a year, for instance. So, someone brand new to the city, not that you don't want newcomers to have input, but I think so certainly I think that might be one qualification. Brian, I'm not sorry, but you have the spot as you get up and go.
I was gonna go check on that.
Sorry, but I'm assuming the municipal league may have information on how other cities handle those kinds of appointments and what kind of criteria they use. So I can't see off the top of my head, except for the residency requirement.
Do you think that they should live in a city limits of Jefferson City? They're gonna serve on the board?
I think that's something for this committee to grapple with. I mean, I think that, and that's why this kind of a handbook or policy gives you the chance to have that discussion separate from the appointments themselves. And then it's discussed in a context of what's best in general, not, oh, well, I'm voting for this because I have that person I want on or whatever. It just makes it a separate thing that can be more easily followed. Anything else?
Mr. Griffin.
Thanks for your time. I'm Aaron Griffith. I'm the director of J.C. Parks. I will certainly say that I respect the position of the mayor and his stance. I guess with this being new to me as well, I would encourage or ask, maybe moving forward when it comes to appointments or reappointments, that the mayor would seek counsel from potential committee chairpersons or myself. For the case of Mary Shantz, you have a very dedicated, she's very open, she is community driven. I would have liked to provide input on maybe somebody like someone who's a less of a qualified candidate that's not putting out the work that she's doing. So I think that if you evaluate it like a team, like an employee, there's probably some that probably could have came off instead of Mary. So I would like to say that. Like I said, I respect the mayor, his perspective, and that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other public comments? And then, that should be hard to change that public comment up to the beginning of schedule. We need to vote on that, just move it.
No, because it was requested just of the council meetings. It was not requested of our committee meetings. So do we need an official action to accomplish that?
No, I mean, setting the agenda order is the chair.
After the approval of the minutes? Is that
Yeah.
a suitable spot for you?
Yes.
Book safety, I think mostly. There are, yes.
So we don't need a special thing from us saying.
As long as you.
As long as you're good with it.
I say okay. Next scheduled meeting is for June 5th. Yes, right. Is there any problems with meeting at this time, 7:30 on the time we generally meet? Item number 7. Motion to adjourn by Councilman Spicer and seconded. Councilman Schwartz, all those in favor say aye. Aye, any opposed, same sign. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you all for your thoughts and appreciate your production.
I'm the BIO. Yeah, because my living. Yeah.